It has been an emotional and beautiful Thursday. Look at your screen now. It's a split screen. We are awaiting a ceremony. It started in Spring, Texas, where a funeral train will carry the casket of former President George H.W. Bush to his final resting place, about a 2.5 hour train ride away to College Station. Moments ago, that funeral service in Houston ended. Casey Stegall is live in Spring, Texas, where the motorcade has left and is on its way, and we're told should arrive at any moment. Casey?
Yeah, Harris, it's on its way to this location, which is in Spring, Texas, a suburb of Houston, and it has started pouring rain. So this is going to be a soggy send-off. But, you know, this is a final special touch that we understand the president himself actually had a little bit of a hand in helping plan, down to the menu that the family is going to be enjoying for lunch on the train ride up there. Now, as I'm talking, you can see that you have honor guard members moving into place, and we did get that warning not long ago that the motorcade should be arriving shortly. But Harris, I want to kind of explain, if I may, what's going to happen once they arrive. The car that they're marching toward, you can see straight ahead, painted like an American flag. That is going to be the car where the casket will be loaded up into. And then you see that window off to the right of the entrance with the stairs, that black window. Well, that is plexiglass, and there is also one on the other side of it. And we understand there is a light above that window, and the casket will be placed right there. It will be illuminated, so it will be very easy to spot as this train is making its way up to College Station, Texas. So the family is going to be in the car just beyond that car that's going to carry the casket. Immediate family, President George W. Bush and Jeb and Neil, they will be in the car immediately behind, and then the rest of the family. They've got a pretty large group that's heading up to College Station. They're going to be in the cars that follow. Now, powering this train, the signature 4141 engine. Look at this. It is painted in the scheme of Air Force One, and it was dedicated in 2005. Mr. and Mrs. Bush took this photo inside the cab at the time of that dedication. The train is scheduled to depart right from here at the top of the hour. That's 2 o'clock Eastern. It will take about 2.5 hours to get up to College Station, slowing down through a few smaller Texas towns along the route, giving those folks a chance to see the president before arriving in College Station there up at the presidential library. So even though
Casey,
it is raining, we on our way in. Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to step in. Can we pop that map back up? Because you were talking about all the towns, and people can get a really, I wanted to slow you down because you're doing such a great job telling us exactly overpasses. I mean, it's been a really beautiful moment for people to be involved in this journey. And now you see, I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, about 11 cities that this will go through until it reaches, maybe 10 or 11 until it reaches College Station. That's a lot of people and a lot of love along the way.
It really is, Harris, you know, and we should tell you that we're already seeing images emerging from some of those towns, people that started camping out very early this morning in lawn chairs. They wanted to get their spot, and like I said, at least right in this location, it's pouring rain, but that doesn't matter. It's also quite cold for Houston, and so that doesn't matter. The people that we talked to in line last night at the church that were waiting to go see the president lying in repose at his church. It was freezing cold and windy out there last night, and sometimes the wait was more than 2 hours just to get on a shuttle bus at the Overflow Church to shuttle people over to see the president lying in repose. And they were braving the elements, and they said that they didn't even think twice about it, because this is a chance to stop and have a front row seat to American history and also honor a great leader.
And this is, you know, it's history layered on top of history. President Lincoln. I mean, we haven't seen this. This is something that was done previously so that the masses could take part in all of this. And this has really got a very personal touch to it as it rolls through Texas. because of the legacy, not just of this president, but of his entire family and its leadership there. We saw the grandson, George P. Bush, today speaking. He is the General Land Commissioner for the state of Texas. So you've got several generations of Bush leadership in that state. Casey Siegel, we will come back to you as the news warrants. We'll keep this picture up. Thank you so much. I want to welcome in now Ed Rollins, former campaign manager for the Reagan-Bush campaign in 1984. You and I have been talking about the layering of history now. The Union Pacific originally commissioned this locomotive for the Presidential Library, Ed. They titled it Train, Tracks of the Iron Horse. And at one point, after a little bit of training, I understand the former president actually got in the engineer's seat and drove for a couple of miles.
Wouldn't doubt it a bit. He was a hands-on kind of guy, and obviously probably had great fun doing that. He was a man who lived a great life, and his post-presidency, in which we, was sadly ended by a defeat, but he went on to basically do wonderful, wonderful things as a community leader and as a fundraiser for great charities. And he wasn't a bitter man. He became great friends with Bill Clinton and basically the man who beat him and defeated him, and obviously made great contributions and lived an enormous life as an ex-president, in addition to having been a great president.
His exit has been enormous as well, just in terms of the accessibility that the American public has had. 12,000 people for lying in state in the Capitol Rotunda. And I don't know, Ed, if you can see just on the horizon there, we're picking up the motorcade now. As they pull into this, you heard Casey Siegel saying that they will have a departure ceremony on this tarmac. You don't really call it a tarmac, although if you can see the front of the train, it does look a lot like Air Force One.
Yes, it does.
What are your thoughts about just how orchestrated this is? I understand that the former president, of course, he knew that this train would be used in this way and wanted it to be.
Well, the best part about this is he gets to go back and let little people touch him. We've become very cynical about politics with all the daily television and social media and what have you. But this is little people. I remember we took a train with President Reagan through Ohio. It was the first time the train had been used in a presidential campaign since Truman. And you get a real sense there'd be 25, 30,000 people in these little towns. And that's what you'll see today. Everybody in these little towns are going to come out to have a sense of history of watching this man go by. And the unique thing about President Bush is he went back to Texas, not to basically be a politician, not to end up being president. It was a very, very blue state at the time that he did. He went there to basically strike out on business. They could have gone
in
to
the
Wall
40s, the late 40s,
right?
Yeah.
And he ran for Congress, ran for the Senate initially, lost, came back, and represented for 4 years Houston, the one congressional district that was Republican in the state. Tried to run again in 70 and lost, and then became a very dear ally of President Nixon's, who appointed him to a variety of positions, from party chairman to ambassador to the United Nations to ambassador to China and what have you. So,
you know what I love about hearing you talk about those points in history? You bring up when there was not success.
Absolutely.
And you point to that. Why is that so important with this particular individual? Because he had such great success.
Because he never quit. I mean, the interesting thing to me about him is that he wasn't even a contender with Reagan. I mean, he'd won the Iowa caucus, which was nothing at that point in time. Reagan crushed him after that, 2-3 to 1 the votes. He wasn't a front runner to be the vice president. It was kind of a spur of the moment. They'd actually never met. They had met in a debate, but they'd never had a sit-down session until after Reagan had made the next morning. And I remember flying back on the plane, coming back here with Bush to Houston. We dropped him off on the way back to California. And he was so enthused. He was so appreciative of the president choosing him and gave him another whole political life.
How about that?
So,
this will be the 8th funeral train in U.S. history and the first since Dwight D. Eisenhower's body traveled from the National Cathedral in Washington through 7 states to his Kansas hometown in Abilene 49 years ago. And now we have the motorcade of George H.W. Bush pulling in for a presidential send-off from Spring, Texas to College Station. It takes about 2.5 hours for this train ride. So later this afternoon, he will arrive there. That's where the Presidential Library and Center, which bear his name, are located. And so people along that route of that map that we had shown you, and Casey Siegel was talking in detail about how people can line up along the way and they know when the train is coming up and down the tracks. And you hear Ed Rollins talking about that personal touch that the president must have foreseen and that they have gotten in the last day and a half. And so all of that will come into play in just the next few minutes. You saw the color guard come out during Casey Stiegel's report, and now we have several people in the depot parking lot here of the train that will pull off, Bush 4141, that will pull off carrying the family members who are aboard. And there it is. It's got the similar colors, Ed Rollins, as Air Force One.
It's the Air Force Blue.
Yes.
He never forgot, he obviously was a young man, 18-year-old. He went off right out of high school, went into the Navy during World War II, volunteered, became a fighter pilot. He never forgot the military. He loved the military. I was on an aircraft carrier with him when the old chief, who was his chief when he was a young boy, was there. Mm-hmm. The old guy looked like Popeye with 1,000 things on, still a sailor, and he'd been there for 45 years, so never forgot the people over there.
We are going to now pause for one moment to let our Fox broadcast stations join us. This is Fox News coverage of the funeral of President George H.W. Bush in Texas. I'm Harris Faulkner covering it from New York, and you see the motorcade pulling into view now. Let me tell you what is so special historically about what you're watching. So the president's remains his casket will be put onto a special train, which originally was made for his Presidential Library and Center in College Station, Texas, the campus of Texas A&M. It will then travel aboard that train with family members for only the 9th funeral in train U.S. history at a presidential level to see this happen. So it will go to College Station, and the funeral will happen there. It's a very private ceremony that happened earlier. Rather, a ceremony will happen when it arrives, this train, in College Station, and then the burial of our 41st president. I say history on top of history because he joins just 8 others in our U.S. history to have this happen. President Lincoln, all the way through Dwight D. Eisenhower, which was 49 years ago. So not only is this rare and special, it is also a way for people to see what's happening in real time along the way. I want to bring in Arkansas Congressman French Hill, who served as Assistant Secretary of Treasury under President George H.W. Bush from 1989 to 91. Congressman, you're with me?
I am. Harris, nice to see you.
Oh, yes. Actually, you and I may not get to see each other on camera for the audience because we are going to concentrate now on what is happening live, and our broadcast stations have joined us too. This is a pertinent moment in history because this is the final journey home. Congressman.
Well, George Bush was truly a great American. He loved